Evening, ladies and gents. How are you doing? Elon Musk is doing his civic duty on Twitter today, trying to at least mitigate or at least put some pressure on the UK government to stop behaving like Stalin when he was throwing everybody in the gulags, as the retributive jailing of anybody who politely disagrees with them on the internet has already started. He posted this earlier in 2030 for making a Facebook comment that the UK government doesn't like. And obviously there's a bloke getting the old 20,000 volt armchair treatment. Many a true word is spoken in jest, and almost as soon as I'd seen this on X, I went to read the daily headlines, as I always do before I sit down to make a video, and one of the first things I saw was this. The Independent, obviously that's toppers with commies, so they're loving this, absolutely loving it. Prosecutors warn 3 far-right thugs handed heavy sentences over riots are just the tip of the iceberg. Sir Keir points to the first men jailed over nationwide unrest and said they will face the full force of the law and swift action. Even the headline's comical. Far-right thugs. They don't make statements, negative statements like that, when fully radicalised followers of everybody's favourite potbelly desert midget make their insane holy proclamations and then detonate themselves inside pop concerts. It's really quite a bizarre state of affairs when posting things on Facebook or throwing a can of Stella at a copper gets you lambasted by the media worse than, well, butchers, basically. And this video is going to be about the stark contrast between the lads that are covered in this story and the crimes they committed, in many cases, crimes, because basically they weren't. The treatment of other people, you know who the other people are, and just how sinister the Starmer government is, because if you might remember, just 2 weeks before the riots started, cast your mind back to this. Now that they're rounding up hundreds of people and jailing them, often for just Facebook posts, or pensioners that have never been in trouble with the law for 72 years. Just before they started rounding them up, the Starmer government gave us this pearl of wisdom. Keir Starmer could let out 40,000 inmates early to ease the prisons crisis. Rishi Sunak blocked the early release measures in the run-up to the general election, leaving his successor with tough decisions to make. Yeah, you read that right. So they're essentially going to release 40,000 sex pests, in some instances, murderers, I will cover them, hardened mafiosos, Tony Sopranos, and the like. Well, they're all Albanian in the UK, they're not Italian. And they're releasing them to make room for people that have made offensive quips on Facebook. Brilliant. Okay. Fantastic start to my Wednesday, reading about them quickly rounding up all of the people that they're going to soon lock up for extremely lengthy periods of time, often for simply disagreeing with the communists running the world. Another amusing thing to consider is, remember that video of those blokes and the family from Doha in Manchester fully windmilling on the bobbies for about 60 seconds? One of them even breaking the nose of a policewoman. None of those people have yet been charged. None of them. And I feel it'd be remiss of me to not bring up Mr. Mellier while talking about this type of thing, because Elon retweeted something with him on as well. What the hell is going on? This is factually accurate, of course. Posted comments on Facebook, 15 weeks in jail. Sold they weren't even anti-immigration, were they? One of them just said it's okay to be a white bloke. 24 months in prison, and the bloke on the end rogering a 12-year-old like a copper's radio, 180 hours of community service, no prison time. Amazing. This is what justice looks like. As I said yesterday, you know we need a justice minister. You need a justice minister when you haven't got any, because they need someone to oil the runners, smooth things over, make propagandistic speeches and lie to the press. You need a minister for that stuff. Justice, when there is none to be found. So they still haven't prosecuted the bloke that gave that policewoman so many combinations she thought she was a safe, but they've started jailing all of the rioters and their Facebook supporters nice and early. Up before the birds when it's time to jail people that look like the angry Bootneck. This from the Independent reads, prosecutors have warned the 3 thugs handed heavy sentences over nationwide unrest are just the tip of the iceberg. as the three men become the first to be jailed over the Southport and Liverpool riots. Sir Keir pointed to the case as an example of how perpetrators are going to face the full force of the law after swift action from authorities. It comes as police are braced for more than 100 protests in 41 of the 43 force areas in England and Wales on Wednesday evening, as normal people target overbearing authoritarian commie dogs. The Independent understands officers are also expecting more than 30 counter-protests, brilliant, and 6,000 riot officers are preparing for another night of potential disorder. A Downing Street spokesman said the large number of courtroom appearances are just the start, already more than 420. And they added, our criminal justice system is showing violent thuggery has no place on our streets. I'll stop you there, lads. It does have a place on our streets, as long as the people doing it look like the Harlem Globetrotters, because when Bravo Lima Mike activists went on a rampage for a month and looted about £200 million worth of running shoes, not that they do any running in, drug dealing shoes, there was nowhere near 420 arrests. And we've all seen the footage. And we've seen the footage of 200 coppers running away from a crowd of activists getting bottled and bricked. And nobody did anything about it. And you couldn't see a riot shield in sight. I've seen the video of a policewoman getting aggressively dry humped up against a brick wall during the Notting Hill Carnival while a bunch of boat people laughed their asses off the whole time, and nobody did a single thing about it. So don't tell me that the criminal justice system is showing that thuggery has no place on our streets. The criminal justice system is showing that radical activists run the country and the courts and the judicial system. And it's only got no place on the streets or in your bedroom if you just happen to send a quip and the government take umbrage with it. Only if you basically look a certain way. In the longest prison sentence handed down so far over the far-right disorder, Derek Drummond was jailed for 3 years after punching a copper during a riot. He was one of 3 men jailed alongside Declan Gearan and Liam Riley, who were sentenced to 30 months and 20 months for one trying to set a police van alight and the other one throwing rocks at the police. The 3 men sentenced today are the tip of the iceberg and just the start of what will be a very painful process. And there they all are there. Whoa, hang on a sec. That bloke second from the bottom looks like he might be mixed race. Let him out. Let him out. Give him a lollipop and stand him outside a school. He can be the lollipop man. What's that? He's got strings of sexual offences. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He can't possibly be a bad person because he's almost got dreadlocks. All right. So is it obvious? Has it sank in yet? Peter Hitchens and David Starkey. What an oracle Mr. Starkey's proved to be. He gave a long interview with Spiked a couple of weeks ago, referring to Starmer as like a full-on jackbooted authoritarian, and almost everything he said is blob on. Like, it's quite staggering to see how prophetic he was. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the comments for you to check it out. But yeah, it's quite funny, isn't it? They've released 40,000 raving lunatics to start locking up people that have the wrong opinion. Amazing. And just to prove it's not hyperbole on my part, I'll just show you one example. From thedailymail.com. Agony for mother of teenager killed in machete of peace attack after learning one of his killers will be released after 6 months due to prison overcrowding. The mother of a teenage boy who was killed says one of his killers is going to be released just 6 months into his jail term. The 14-year-old was attacked with a blade during a feud in Newcastle. Carlos Neto and Lawson Natty were convicted of manslaughter. Yeah, because it's totally an accident if you start twatting someone with a 4-foot sharp object. Obviously, this young lad here is the victim. And obviously, this fella, who if he went on a double date with the Elephant Man, would inadvertently make Merrick the looker of the two. He was the bloke who wielded the blade. And there's his mate Carlos. So there you have it. That's the type of people they're letting out. And who are the type of people they're locking up? Well, you, basically, and me, if they can get to me. I think Keir Starmer will have trouble with me on account of the fact there's 7,000 miles and about 400 rounds of ammunition between us. So with any luck, I'll be all right. But for the rest of you, watch what you're saying and invest in some new bolts for your doors and windows, because the Stasi are coming for you. The Starmer Stasi are monitoring you. Again, Starkey talked about it. They are monitoring you. They've got logs with everything you write and type on there, and they'll come for you eventually. As I kept telling you, it gets much, much, much worse before it gets better, so batten down the hatches. But it's just my opinion. If you think I'm completely wrong, and you're definitely not going to get a knock on the door, a taser in the face, and then a copper lock with your arm jammed so far up your back, you're tickling the back of your own neck, let me know in the comments so we can point and laugh. All right? Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're all doing all right, considering the circumstances. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Cheers.